Ever wonder why modern sleep feels so broken? Despite our memory foam mattresses and white noise machines, we wake up exhausted. Ancient Romans, however, had sleep patterns so effective they might have been the best in history. Their secret wasn't technology, it was understanding the natural rhythms of rest. Let's discover what they knew. If you've ever woken up at 2 a.m. and spent hours staring at the ceiling, here's a surprising revelation. Ancient Romans would have considered your sleeping pattern completely normal. In fact, they'd probably wonder why you weren't up doing something productive with those peaceful midnight hours. Romans practiced what historians now call biphasic sleep. They slept in two distinct phases. When darkness fell, they'd settle in for their prima somni, first sleep, lasting about 4 hours. They'd then rise for approximately 2 hours during what they called intempesta nox, the dead of night, before returning to their concubia nocte, second sleep, until dawn. During these midnight hours, Roman households came alive in subtle ways. Pliny the Elder, in his extensive writings, describes using these wakeful periods for contemplation and study, noting that his most profound thoughts often came in silentio noctis, in the silence of night. Wealthy Romans considered these hours ideal for intellectual pursuits, reading philosophy by oil lamp, dictating correspondence to slaves, or engaging in quiet conversation. Some of Rome's greatest literary works bear evidence of this practice. Poets and philosophers frequently mention the clarity of thought that came during this interval between sleeps. One senator's letters describe solving complex political problems during these midnight vigils, claiming the gods spoke more clearly when the rest of Rome slumbered. Even the practical Romans recognized the value of this natural rhythm. Roman military camps organized their watch rotations around these sleep patterns. The Vigilia Secunda, second watch, aligned perfectly with this natural waking period, ensuring guards were naturally alert during their shifts. Military commanders noted that soldiers fought better when their rest followed these natural patterns, rather than forcing continuous sleep. What makes this sleep pattern fascinating is how natural it seems to be for humans. When modern researchers conducted experiments where people lived without artificial light for several weeks, participants naturally fell into the same two-phase sleep pattern that Romans had practiced 2 millennia earlier. Their bodies automatically adjusted to what Romans had known all along. This was how humans were meant to rest. While Romans embraced natural sleep cycles, their true advantage came from their mastery of something we've completely forgotten: the perfect sleeping environment engineered through remarkable architectural innovation. The Romans didn't just understand sleep, they engineered it through architectural brilliance. Their sleeping chambers, called cubicula, weren't simply rooms with beds, but carefully designed sleep sanctuaries, created with an understanding of human comfort that would impress modern architects. Have you ever noticed how your bedroom feels perfect one season, but unbearable the next? Romans solved this problem with remarkable foresight. Wealthy Romans maintained separate winter and summer sleeping chambers, each precisely designed for the season's demands. Vitruvius, Rome's most famous architect, dedicated entire sections of his treatise De Architectura to proper bedroom placement, specifying exact orientations for seasonal sleeping rooms. Winter cubicula faced southwest to capture afternoon sunlight, storing heat in thick masonry walls that would slowly release warmth throughout the night. These rooms were often compact, with low ceilings to preserve body heat. The most sophisticated winter sleeping chambers featured hypocaust systems, ingenious underfloor heating where hot air circulated through hollow spaces beneath the floor and within the walls. Archaeological excavations at Pompeii reveal winter cubicula with small windows positioned to maximize warmth while minimizing drafts. Summer sleeping chambers presented an entirely different approach. These rooms faced north to avoid direct sunlight and were typically located on the ground floor where the earth provided natural cooling. High ceilings allowed hot air to rise away from sleepers, while strategically placed windows created cross-ventilation that captured the slightest breeze. Some summer cubicula in wealthy villas featured water elements, small fountains whose evaporation would naturally cool the air, creating a primitive form of air conditioning. Even the building materials changed seasonally. Winter rooms utilised heat-retaining materials like volcanic tuff stone, while summer chambers featured marble and limestone that stayed naturally cool. Pliny the Younger's letters describe his coastal villa's summer cubiculum as so cool that it captures and contains its own fresh air, needing no external breeze. What's particularly impressive is how these rooms were deliberately positioned away from street noise and household activity. Romans understood that sleep requires tranquility, placing cubicula in the most private sections of homes, often opening onto peaceful garden courtyards rather than busy streets or kitchens. In crowded insula, apartment buildings, better sleeping quarters were placed on upper floors, away from street-level noise and activity. These architectural marvels provided perfect sleeping environments, but Romans also mastered darkness in ways our light-polluted world has completely forgotten. In the Roman world, true darkness reigned at night, a darkness so complete it's almost impossible for modern people to imagine. When the sun set over the 7 hills of Rome, a profound blackness descended that created perfect conditions for deep sleep. Have you ever noticed how even the smallest light, a charging phone, a digital clock, a street light leaking through curtains, seems to invade your bedroom? Romans faced none of these intrusions. Their world was naturally, profoundly dark. Oil lamps and candles were expensive luxuries, not casual conveniences. A single oil lamp might cost several days' wages for an average worker, making artificial light something used sparingly and deliberately. Even wealthy Romans, who could afford more illumination, recognized the value of darkness for proper rest. Roman sleeping chambers were specifically designed to embrace this darkness. Cubicula typically had minimal windows, or sometimes none at all. When windows were present, they were small and often positioned high on walls, designed more for ventilation than illumination. Archaeological evidence from Pompeii and Herculaneum reveals sleeping chambers with tiny apertures that would admit minimal light even during daylight hours. For any unwanted light that might enter, Romans employed heavy curtains called vela that would block even the brightest moonlight. These thick fabric hangings served multiple purposes, providing darkness, reducing noise, and adding a layer of insulation. Some remains of these curtains found in volcanic ash show they were made of densely woven wool or linen, sometimes lined with additional material specifically to block light. Roman writers frequently commented on the importance of darkness for proper sleep. Seneca advised in his letters that the bedroom should welcome Somnus, the god of sleep, with appropriate darkness. Pliny the Elder, in his encyclopedic Natural History, noted that sleep comes more readily to those who court darkness than those who resist it. Roman physicians were particularly adamant about darkness for healing sleep. The physician Serranus recommended complete darkness for patients recovering from illness, while Galen prescribed sleep in the absence of all light for treating various ailments. These doctors might not have understood the biochemistry of melatonin, but they recognized through observation that darkness promoted deeper, more restorative rest. Without light pollution, Romans experienced darkness in its purest form. No distant city glow, no passing headlights, no electronic displays. Just complete, enveloping blackness that signaled to the body it was time for deep rest. This natural darkness created ideal conditions for their circadian rhythms to function properly. While darkness helped Romans sleep soundly, their beds, far from the luxury mattresses we imagine, might have been their greatest sleep secret. Forget memory foam and adjustable bases. Roman beds achieved the perfect balance of support and comfort, using simple materials that modern manufacturers are only now rediscovering. The typical Roman bed, called a lectus cubicularis, represented centuries of practical refinement in sleep technology. Most Romans slept on raised wooden frames, designed at the ideal height for both sleeping and sitting. The most brilliant feature was the support system, interwoven ropes or leather straps that created a responsive, semi-springy surface. This ingenious design distributed body weight evenly while providing gentle give where needed, remarkably similar to the expensive slat systems in today's high-end beds. Archaeological remains from Pompeii show the rope tensioning systems used holes and pegs that could be adjusted to change the bed's firmness, essentially creating the world's first adjustable mattress. What would you have found on top of this frame? Not the excessively soft or rigid surfaces common today, but natural materials chosen for balanced support. Roman mattresses, colcita, were typically stuffed with wool, which provided both cushioning and remarkable temperature regulation. Wool naturally wicks away moisture and adjusts to body temperature, keeping sleepers warm in winter and cool in summer. Wealthier Romans might use feather-stuffed mattresses, while more modest homes employed dried reeds or straw in carefully arranged layers. Bedding textiles showed equal thoughtfulness. Linen sheets were most common, prized for their breathability and durability. During colder months, wool blankets, lodices, provided warmth without weight. Pliny the Elder wrote about specially woven covers that were warm in winter, yet light enough for summer nights, suggesting seasonal bedding was common practice. Elite Romans enjoyed additional refinements. Bronze bed frames could be warmed in winter by placing hot coals in metal containers beneath them, an early heated bed system. Some examples found in Herculaneum show sophisticated designs with adjustable headrests for reading or conversation before sleep. Seneca noted that proper beds should support the body without swallowing it, critiquing overly soft sleeping surfaces that failed to provide adequate support. Perhaps most surprisingly, Romans understood ergonomics. Many Roman beds featured a slightly raised section at the head, supporting the natural curve of the neck. Pillows, pulvinus, were firm rather than fluffy, typically filled with wool or feathers, and designed to maintain proper alignment, not unlike modern orthopedic pillows. The combination of responsive support from rope webbing, natural temperature regulating fillings, and breathable coverings created sleeping surfaces that perfectly balance comfort and support, without chemicals, synthetic materials, or complex mechanisms. These perfectly supportive beds welcomed tired bodies, and Romans ensured theirs were properly exhausted through daily physical activity that modern gyms could never replicate. Forget expensive gym memberships. Romans achieved physical tiredness simply by living their daily lives. In Roman society, physical exertion wasn't something scheduled between meetings. It was woven into the very fabric of existence across all social classes, naturally preparing bodies for deep, restorative sleep. Have you ever noticed how much better you sleep after a day of physical activity? Romans lived this reality daily. For the average Roman, walking was the primary mode of transportation. Citizens might walk several miles each day through the hilly terrain of Rome, creating what modern exercise specialists would call an ideal cardio workout. Archaeological evidence shows that typical Roman insulae, apartment buildings, lacked elevators, meaning residents climbed multiple flights of stairs several times daily, a natural stair-stepper routine built into housing architecture. The cornerstone of Roman physical activity was the daily bath ritual. Unlike our quick showers, Romans visited elaborate public bathhouses, thermae, where exercise was an integral part of the cleansing routine. Before entering the baths proper, Romans would visit the palaestra, an exercise yard where they engaged in wrestling, weightlifting with stone or metal weights, ball games, and various calisthenics. Medical writers like Galen recommended specific exercises based on age, body type, and existing health conditions, an early form of personalised fitness training. Physical labour formed another cornerstone of Roman fitness. Even wealthy Romans engaged in more physical activity than modern counterparts. Agriculture required hands-on management, and many elite Romans personally oversaw their country estates, engaging in what we might now call gentleman farming. Urban professionals walked to meetings across the city, and the Roman emphasis on rhetoric meant lawyers and politicians physically exerted themselves during animated public speeches and debates. Philosophers explicitly connected physical exhaustion to sleep quality. Seneca advised his students to tire the body with exercise, so sleep may more easily descend upon it. Cicero noted that those who labour physically during the day are blessed with the deepest sleep at night. These weren't just philosophical observations, they reflected common understanding of sleep's relationship to physical activity. What's particularly noteworthy is how Roman exercise differed from our modern approach. Romans didn't isolate muscle groups or count repetitions. Their physical activity had purpose and context. Soldiers trained with weapons, labourers built structures, farmers tended fields, and city dwellers navigated urban landscapes. This functional fitness created balanced practical strength and endurance, perfectly designed to prepare the body for rest, without the overtraining or imbalances common in modern exercise regimens. After properly exhausting their bodies, Romans had another advantage. They understood that what goes into your body before bed matters just as much as how you spend your day. What you eat before bed affects your sleep just as much as when you eat it, a principle Romans understood with remarkable precision. Their approach to evening nutrition wasn't just about avoiding heartburn. It was a sophisticated system designed to prepare the body for optimal rest. The cornerstone of Roman mealtime wisdom was timing. Unlike modern dinner schedules that often place our heaviest meal just before bedtime, Romans consumed their main meal, the cena, in the late afternoon, typically between the 8th and 9th hour, roughly 3 to 5 p.m. by our clocks. This timing allowed for complete digestion before sleep, preventing the digestive disturbances that plague many modern sleepers. As the physician Celsus noted in De Medicina, sleep comes trouble to those who lie down with food undigested. Do you often feel sluggish after a heavy dinner? Romans avoided this problem entirely. By the time they retired to their cubicula, their main meal had been fully processed, allowing their bodies to focus on restorative sleep rather than digestion. For those who needed something in the evening, a light snack called vesperna might be consumed. But this was carefully selected to promote rather than hinder sleep. The specific content of evening meals was equally thoughtful. Romans deliberately consumed foods believed to induce restfulness in the evening hours. Lettuce featured prominently in late-day meals, as Romans had observed its mild sedative effects. Pliny the Elder specifically noted that lactucarium, the milky substance in lettuce, calms the body towards sleep. Modern science has confirmed this observation, identifying compounds in lettuce that indeed promote relaxation. Easily digestible dishes predominated evening fare. Simple bread soaked in watered wine, cool vegetable dishes, and light porridges replaced the heavier meat-scented portions served at midday meals. The physician Galen prescribed specific evening dietary regimens based on individual constitutions, an early form of personalised nutrition for sleep optimization. For those still struggling with sleep, Romans developed specialised wine preparations combined with sleep-promoting herbs. A drink called mulsum combined wine with honey and herbs like passion flower or valerian. Archaeological findings have uncovered specialised cups used specifically for these evening sleep tonics, designed to be sipped slowly before retiring. Roman medical writers were particularly adamant about avoiding certain foods in the evening. Apicius, in his famous cookbook, specifically labelled certain dishes as inappropriate for evening consumption, indicating that even culinary experts recognise the connection between evening diet and sleep quality. Heavy, spiced meats, certain nuts, and overly sweet confections were avoided as potential sleep disruptors. Their careful attention to evening nutrition was complemented by a ritualistic approach to winding down that makes our modern sleep hygiene look amateur by comparison. Long before sleep apps and bedtime alarms, Romans perfected the art of winding down through elaborate evening rituals that prepared both body and mind for rest. Their approach wasn't haphazard, but a carefully orchestrated sequence that gradually transitioned them from daytime alertness to nighttime tranquility. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to fall asleep immediately after intense activity? Romans structured their evenings specifically to avoid this problem. As the sun began its descent, the pace of life deliberately slowed. Business transactions ended, physical labour ceased, and Romans began a methodical transition toward rest that modern sleep specialists would find remarkably aligned with current recommendations. The evening bath formed the cornerstone of this transition for many Romans. Unlike morning bathing, which might involve stimulating hot plunges and vigorous scraping with strigils, evening baths were specifically designed for relaxation. Tepid rather than hot water was preferred, as Pliny the Younger noted that excessive heat before sleep agitates rather than calms the mind. Archaeological evidence from bath complexes shows separate sections designed for more gentle, relaxing bathing experiences, often with dimmer lighting and quieter atmospheres than their daytime counterparts. Following the bath, many Romans received gentle massage with specialized sleep-promoting oils. Olive oil infused with chamomile, lavender or rose was applied in slow, methodical strokes specifically designed to induce drowsiness. Household slaves in wealthy homes were trained in these techniques, while public bath attendants offered similar services for common citizens. The physician Galen prescribed specific massage patterns for different sleep difficulties, gentle circular motions for those with racing minds, long strokes for physical tension. Mental preparation received equal attention. The hour before sleep was often devoted to calming activities rather than stimulating ones. Many Romans read or listened to soothing literature specifically selected to prepare the mind for rest. Certain poets were considered particularly suitable for bedtime reading, while exciting histories or contentious philosophical works were avoided. Seneca advised students to select evening readings that settle rather than stimulate the mind. Consistency featured prominently in Roman sleep preparation. The satirist Juvenal mocked those who kept irregular hours, suggesting they would suffer both in health and temperament, reflecting the widespread understanding that regular sleep schedules promoted well-being. Even Roman military camps maintained strict evening routines, with specific signals indicating when soldiers should begin preparing for rest. Perhaps most surprising was the Roman emphasis on mental clearing before sleep. Some practitioners recommended a brief review of the day's events before bed, an ancient version of the journaling that modern sleep experts often suggest. Others advocated for simple breathing practices or gentle stretching to release final tensions before sleep. These soothing evening rituals were enhanced by another Roman secret: their masterful use of aromatherapy and herbal sleep aids that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The Roman bedroom was a sensory sanctuary where carefully selected fragrances worked to promote deep sleep. Where modern sleep aids rely on synthetic chemicals, Romans deployed natural plant compounds with remarkable precision, creating aromatherapeutic environments that silently guided the body toward rest. Before sleeping pills existed, Romans had developed sophisticated botanical sleep systems. Their approach wasn't merely superstitious, it was systematic, with specific herbs prescribed for specific sleep issues. Archaeological findings reveal specialized gardens dedicated to sleep-promoting plants, with some wealthy estates maintaining dedicated herb plots specifically for nocturnal remedies. Did you know that different herbs address different sleep problems? Romans certainly did. For those struggling to fall asleep, chamomile and lavender were primary remedies. For those who woke during the night, more potent herbs like valerian root were recommended. As the physician Galen noted in his Pharmacopoeia, valerian brings sleep to those troubled by midnight wakefulness, while gentle lavender eases the initial transition to somnus's realm. The delivery systems for these herbal remedies showed remarkable sophistication. Special ceramic diffusers have been discovered in Roman bedrooms, designed to release gentle aromas throughout the night. These oil lamps featured reservoir tops where aromatic oils could slowly evaporate with the lamp's heat. Archaeologists have found residue of lavender, rose and chamomile oils in these ancient diffusers, the world's first aromatherapy devices. Pillows provided another ingenious delivery method. Romans stuffed special sleep pillows, Colcita dormitoria, with dried herbs selected for their soporific properties. These weren't merely pleasant, they were prescribed. Medical texts recommend specific stuffing mixtures, lavender and rose for anxious sleepers, chamomile and hops for those with physical tension. When crushed by the sleeper's movement, these herbs release small amounts of essential oils throughout the night. Pliny the Elder dedicated an entire section of his natural history to sleep-promoting plants, detailing specific preparation methods. Some herbs required drying in shade rather than sun to preserve their potency. Others needed harvesting at specific times. Gather lavender as the dew dries, when its oils are most concentrated, he advised. Even the walls themselves might contribute to sleep promotion. Some cubiculum walls were painted with sleep-inducing herbs like poppy flowers, while frescoes often depicted calm, restful scenes, thought to influence the mind toward tranquility. In one preserved Roman bedroom, the ceiling depicts night sky constellations specifically associated with peaceful sleep. For those with persistent sleep troubles, Roman physicians created increasingly sophisticated combinations. A prescription found in the writings of Scribonius Largus combines 5 different herbs in precise proportions, with instructions to inhale the steam from this mixture before bed. An early form of aromatherapeutic steam therapy. While herbal remedies helped Romans drift off, their approach to waking was equally sophisticated, built around natural transitions that our blaring alarm clocks have made extinct. Before jarring alarm clocks and rigid morning schedules, Romans mastered the art of waking naturally in harmony with their body's internal rhythms. Their morning approach wasn't about forcing maximum productivity from the moment their eyes opened. It was about gentle transitions that respected the body's natural awakening process. Have you ever noticed how different waking feels when it happens naturally versus being startled awake by an alarm? Romans built their entire morning culture around natural awakening patterns. Rather than adhering to fixed clock times, Roman daily schedules followed the sun's natural progression. Their day was divided into 12 daylight hours, horae, that expanded in summer and contracted in winter, automatically adjusting sleep duration to match seasonal light patterns. This flexibility meant Romans naturally slept longer during winter months, when nights were longer, aligning perfectly with our body's natural tendency to require more sleep during darker seasons. As Columella noted in his agricultural writings, in winter, when nights lengthen, so too should the body's rest. What's particularly remarkable is the Roman approach to the awakening process itself. Unlike our modern instant-on mentality, Romans valued gradual transitions from sleep to activity. The first hour after waking, prima hora, was dedicated to gentle activities rather than immediate productivity. Archaeological evidence from Roman homes shows special morning rooms, often east-facing to catch gentle morning light, where Romans would ease into their day with light stretching, quiet contemplation, or gentle conversation. For wealthy Romans, the morning salutatio, greeting ritual, provided structure without harsh awakening. Clients would visit their patrons in the morning hours, but these visits followed natural waking patterns rather than strict appointments. Historical accounts show these sessions might begin earlier in summer and later in winter, adjusting to natural light. Even Roman military camps, known for discipline, adapted wake times seasonally. While trumpet calls signalled waking time, these were timed to occur around dawn rather than at arbitrary fixed hours. As the military writer Vegetius noted, the wise commander aligns camp activities with the natural rhythm of day and night, adjusting as seasons change. Morning religious observances further supported gentle awakening. Small household shrines, lararia, were used for brief morning devotions, combining spiritual preparation with mental centering. These rituals weren't rushed affairs, but deliberate practice designed to transition the mind from sleep to wakefulness. As Seneca advised, give the morning hour to yourself before you give it to others. For those who needed to wake at specific times, Romans developed gentler alternatives to modern alarms. Household slaves might open shutters to admit gradually increasing natural light, or soft music might be played as dawn approached. Water clocks with floating markers could be used when specific timing was necessary, but even these were arranged to provide gentle indication rather than jarring alerts. These gentle mornings were especially effective because Romans understood something we've lost: the critical importance of aligning sleep with seasonal changes. Unlike our rigid year-round schedules, Romans embraced the natural ebb and flow of seasonal light cycles, adapting their sleep patterns to nature's rhythms. This seasonal flexibility wasn't viewed as an inconvenience, but as a natural, healthy alignment with the world around them. Have you noticed how your body naturally wants more sleep in winter? Romans not only recognized this tendency, but built their entire social structure around it. During winter months, with their shorter days and longer nights, Romans typically slept 1-2 hours longer than during summer. As the agricultural writer Columella noted, winter demands more rest from the body just as it demands rest from the fields. Roman daily schedules automatically accommodated these seasonal variations because they divided daylight into 12 equal hours regardless of season. This meant winter hours were shorter than summer ones, naturally compressing daytime activities during darker months and expanding them during lighter ones. Their first hour, prima, began at sunrise, and the 12th, duodecima, ended at sunset, creating an elegant system that automatically adjusted to seasonal light availability. The evidence for these seasonal adaptations appears throughout Roman writings. Pliny the Younger's letters describe different daily schedules for his country estate, depending on the season, with winter schedules including significantly more time for rest. Military records show adjusted watch schedules between summer and winter campaigns, with winter soldiers receiving longer rest periods. Practical recognition that fighting effectiveness required seasonal sleep adjustments. Wealthy Romans took seasonal adaptation to impressive levels, rotating between different sleeping chambers based on the season. Archaeological evidence from villas shows dedicated winter bedrooms with south-facing exposure and summer sleeping rooms with north-facing orientation, often on different floors or wings of the house. Even bedding changed seasonally, with heavier wool covers and additional underpadding in winter months versus lightweight linen in summer. Seasonal herbs and food supported these changing sleep patterns. Winter evening meals featured warming, sleep-promoting ingredients like nutmeg and cinnamon, while summer evenings included cooling herbs like mint that helped counter the disruptive effects of heat on sleep. The physician Galen prescribed specific seasonal sleep tonics, heavier preparations for winter and lighter ones for summer. Perhaps most striking to modern sensibilities, Romans didn't fight against these seasonal variations or view them as problematic. Seasonal sleep differences were considered normal and healthy rather than a disruption to overcome. As Seneca observed, the wise man follows the rhythm of the seasons in all things, including rest. Even religious and social calendars accommodated seasonal sleep variations. Winter festivals featured more evening components, while summer celebrations emphasized daytime activities. Business hours contracted in winter and expanded in summer, with legal records showing different schedules for court proceedings based on season. Acknowledgement that human energy and alertness vary naturally throughout the year. This natural harmony with the seasons reflected a larger philosophy about sleep. Romans saw it not as a necessity to endure, but as a pleasure to be cultivated like fine wine. Unlike our cultural obsession with productivity that views sleep as wasted time, Romans celebrated sleep as a positive good, worthy of cultivation and respect. They didn't just tolerate sleep, they honoured it through literature, philosophy, religion, and social values. Have you ever noticed how our culture rarely celebrates sleep itself, focusing instead on what sleep enables us to do when awake? Romans took the opposite approach. Their literature abounds with positive depictions of sleep as a pleasure in its own right. Ovid's poetry luxuriates in descriptions of gentle Somnus, who brings peace to troubled minds and rest to weary bodies. Virgil's Aeneid describes sleep as the sweetest refreshment, while Catullus writes of it as the most generous gift of the gods to mortals. This wasn't merely poetic flourish. Roman philosophical traditions explicitly valued proper sleep. Cicero's writings on the balanced life include proper rest as essential to virtue, not merely physical necessity. Seneca devoted entire letters to the importance of sleep, arguing that the mind renewed by proper rest makes better judgments than one kept constantly at work. For Stoic philosophers, peaceful sleep represented the clear conscience of a virtuous person, the tranquility that comes from living well. Sleep held sacred status in Roman religion, with multiple deities governing different aspects of rest. Somnus, the god of sleep, was depicted as a gentle youth with poppy flowers and a horn of soporific liquid. His son Morpheus governed dreams, while twin gods Hypnos and Thanatos connected sleep with its deeper mysteries. Small household shrines often included sleep deities, and archaeological evidence reveals sleep-related offerings at temples, evidence of how Romans sought divine assistance for good rest. Perhaps most striking was the Roman connection between sleep quality and moral character. A person's sleep was considered revealing of their true nature. As Plutarch observed, nothing exposes a man's character more clearly than how he sleeps. Peaceful sleep indicated a clear conscience, while troubled sleep suggested moral failing. Historical accounts of emperors often mention their sleep patterns. Peaceful sleepers were portrayed as just rulers, while those with disturbed sleep were depicted as tyrannical. Even architecture reflected these values. Unlike modern homes where bedrooms are often afterthoughts, Roman houses positioned cubicular in places of honour. Archaeological evidence shows sleeping chambers were often elaborately decorated with frescoes depicting peaceful scenes or representations of sleep deities. Spatial recognition that sleep deserved beauty and respect. The cultural importance of sleep extended to language itself. Latin had numerous words distinguishing different qualities of sleep. Somnus, general sleep. Coius, peaceful rest. Sopor, deep sleep. Linguistic evidence of a culture that thought carefully about rest. Roman medical texts discuss sleep using explicitly positive terminology, describing it as an active, healing force rather than passive unconsciousness. This cultural appreciation for sleep extended beyond individuals to entire households, where Romans developed sophisticated social arrangements around rest that might seem strange to our privacy-obsessed modern minds. While we might value private bedrooms with locked doors, Romans thrived in communal sleeping arrangements that seem surprisingly intimate by modern standards. Their approach to shared sleeping spaces wasn't due to lack of alternatives. It was a deliberate practice that enhanced both practical comfort and social bonding. Would you be comfortable sleeping in the same room as your household staff? Roman masters often had personal slaves sleeping near their beds, not just for convenience, but for security and companionship. Archaeological evidence from Pompeii and Herculaneum reveals small alcoves or mats positioned near the main bed in cubicula, specifically designed for personal servants. These arrangements served multiple purposes, allowing servants to attend to nighttime needs, providing protection, and even monitoring the master's health during sleep. Roman households typically organised sleeping arrangements strategically rather than privately. Children commonly slept in their parents' chambers until adolescence, with small beds or sleeping couches positioned near parental beds. This wasn't merely for space efficiency. Roman child-rearing philosophy emphasised nighttime proximity for proper development and security. Writings on household management specifically recommend this arrangement to strengthen family bonds and allow for proper nighttime instruction. The practical benefits of shared sleeping were considerable. Shared body heat provided natural warming during cold months, a significant advantage in homes without central heating. Multiple sleepers in one space created microclimates that moderated temperature extremes. As Columella noted in his writings on household management, prudent sleeping arrangements in winter conserve both fuel and health. Archaeological evidence reveals how status manifested within shared sleeping spaces. The paterfamilias, male head of household, typically occupied the most protected and comfortable position, often furthest from doors and drafts. Other family members arranged around this central figure in descending order of importance. Household staff might sleep near thresholds or in antechambers, physically manifesting social hierarchies even in sleep. This communal approach extended beyond immediate family. House guests were commonly incorporated into family sleeping arrangements rather than isolated in separate quarters. Vitruvius's architectural writings specifically address visitor sleeping spaces that balance privacy with inclusion. Travel accounts mention the practice of bed sharing at inns, where strangers might share sleeping platforms when accommodations were limited, an arrangement considered completely normal rather than an imposition. What's particularly noteworthy is how these arrangements fostered social bonds. Roman writers frequently mention the intimate conversations that occurred during shared pre-sleep moments. Plutarch describes meaningful philosophical exchanges between friends sharing sleeping quarters, while family histories record important life lessons passed from parents to children during quiet bedtime conversations. These communal arrangements highlight another Roman advantage. They spent their evenings in genuine human connection rather than staring at screens, creating the perfect mental state for deep rest. Instead of scrolling social media or binge-watching shows before bed, Romans engaged in evening activities specifically designed to calm the mind while strengthening social bonds. Their evening leisure wasn't random entertainment, but carefully selected experiences that naturally prepared the brain for restful sleep. Have you noticed how different activities affect your ability to fall asleep? Romans intuitively understood this connection, creating clear distinctions between stimulating daytime activities and calming evening ones. Evening gatherings called commissatio, after dinner gatherings, deliberately featured gentle conversation rather than heated debate. Unlike the often raucous daytime meetings in forums and markets, evening social events emphasized moderation in both tone and content. Conversation itself followed evening-appropriate patterns. Cicero's letters describe ideal evening discussions as gentle exchanges that neither inflame the passions nor trouble the mind with complex problems. Archaeological evidence from dining rooms shows semicircular couch arrangements specifically designed to facilitate intimate conversation among small groups, physical settings that naturally encouraged quieter voices and closer connections. Storytelling held special importance in Roman evening culture. Unlike the formal oratory of daytime forums, evening tales focused on soothing narratives or gentle humour. Professional storytellers were sometimes retained specifically for evening entertainment in wealthy households, with repertoires categorized by their calming effects. Historical accounts mention how certain storytellers were renowned for their ability to prepare listeners for peaceful sleep through tales that gradually decreased in excitement. Even games changed character as evening approached. Archaeological evidence reveals quieter board games like La Trunculai, similar to chess, were preferred for evening play, replacing the more boisterous physical competitions of daytime hours. Game pieces found in sleeping chambers suggest these calm, intellectual challenges were part of the transition to sleep, engaging the mind while allowing physical relaxation. Music underwent a similar transformation. Roman evening concerts featured specific modes and instruments believed to induce tranquility. The tibia, a reed instrument, was preferred over more stimulating brass instruments, and musical compositions followed patterns designed to gradually slow heart rates. One villa excavation revealed a small evening performance space positioned between dining and sleeping areas. Physical evidence of music's role in sleep transition. The limited artificial light available naturally encouraged these calmer activities. Oil lamps provided inadequate illumination for detailed work or vigorous movement, creating environmental conditions that naturally favoured conversation, listening and mental rather than physical engagement. As Seneca noted, the fading light reminds us to temper our activities as nature tempers the day. What's particularly striking is how these evening activities fostered both relaxation and connection. Unlike our often isolated pre-sleep routines, Romans used evening hours to strengthen household and community bonds through shared experiences specifically designed to calm collective energy. These gentle evening social rituals reflect something deeper about Roman sleep. They maintained a respect for sleep's natural mysteries that our scientific approach has completely missed. Beyond biology and comfort, Romans approached sleep as a sacred threshold, a mysterious state where humans could connect with divine realms inaccessible during waking hours. This spiritual dimension of sleep wasn't superstitious nonsense, but a sophisticated system that recognized sleep's profound psychological and metaphysical significance. Have you ever had a dream that seemed to contain important guidance? Romans would have taken that experience very seriously. They viewed dreams not as random neural firings, but as meaningful communications requiring careful interpretation. Important dreams were recorded and often shared with professional interpreters called conaiectores, who specialized in deciphering these nighttime messages. Historical records show these dream analysts were consulted before major decisions, with interpretation manuals like Artemidorus's Oneirocritica, providing systematic approaches to understanding different dream symbols. The most remarkable manifestation of this spiritual approach was the practice of incubatio, therapeutic sleep conducted in temples dedicated to healing deities, particularly Asclepius. These sleep temples served as ancient healing centers where patients would undergo purification rituals before sleeping in sacred spaces specifically designed to encourage healing or prophetic dreams. Archaeological evidence from these temples reveals specialized sleeping alcoves, dream recording facilities, and interpretation chambers. Votive offerings found at these sites, often depicting healed body parts, suggest many people believe they received effective treatment through these dream-facilitated healing experiences. Romans developed specific rituals to prepare for spiritually significant sleep. Pre-sleep prayers were composed to request divine guidance, healing, or protection during vulnerable sleep hours. Artifacts show special lamps dedicated to sleep deities that would burn through the night as offerings. Some households maintained small shrine areas within sleeping chambers specifically for nighttime devotions. Physical evidence of the sacred nature Romans attributed to sleep. This spiritual dimension extended to philosophical understandings of sleep itself. Stoic and Epicurean writers often described sleep as a small death, parva mors, a temporary surrender of consciousness that prepared one for the ultimate surrender. As Seneca wrote, each night we practice the greater transition to come. Far from being morbid, this perspective encouraged Romans to approach sleep mindfully, seeing each night as practice for peaceful acceptance of life's ultimate transition. Even architectural elements reflected this spiritual dimension. Some excavated sleeping chambers feature ceiling paintings depicting stars and cosmic imagery, creating a symbolic connection to celestial realms during sleep. Others include protective symbols specifically designed to guard sleepers during their vulnerable spiritual journeys. The boundary between medicine and spirituality blurred in sleep practices. Roman physicians prescribed specific sleep positions to encourage prophetic or healing dreams, combining practical anatomy with spiritual belief. Galen himself noted that certain temple sleep experiences produced remarkable recoveries that conventional treatments hadn't achieved. While Romans respected sleep's spiritual dimensions, they were also remarkably practical, developing some of history's earliest sleep technologies that accomplished with simple tools what our gadgets failed to do. Long before sleep trackers and white noise machines, Romans engineered impressive sleep technologies using simple materials and clever design. Their practical innovations address specific sleep challenges with an effectiveness that many of our modern gadgets fail to match, despite their sophisticated electronics. Did you know Romans created specialized pillows for different sleep positions and health conditions? Archaeological findings reveal cervical pillows carved from wood or stone with precise contours to support the neck during sleep. These weren't one-size-fits-all solutions. Medical texts describe different designs for side, back, and stomach sleepers. Physicians like Galen prescribed specific pillow heights and firmness levels for patients with different complaints, from breathing difficulties to digestive issues. Some excavated examples feature cooling stone for summer use, or hollowed centers that could be filled with aromatic herbs, ancient versions of our aromatherapy pillows. For those needing to wake at specific times, Romans developed remarkably accurate alarm systems. Water clocks, clepsydra, modified for sleep use, would trigger small mechanisms as water levels dropped, creating gentle sounds to wake sleepers. Wealthy households employed slaves specifically trained to track time and wake members at appropriate hours based on water clock readings. Some ingenious designs found in archaeological sites show small floats connected to noisemakers that would activate when water reached certain levels. The world's first alarm clocks. Roman bed technology displayed equal ingenuity. Adjustable bed frames have been discovered with mechanisms to elevate different sections for specific health conditions. For breathing difficulties, ratcheting headrests could be positioned at precise angles, while leg elevation systems address circulation problems. One remarkable bed found in a physician's home featured multiple adjustment points and specialized supports, an ancient hospital bed designed with therapeutic precision. Architectural innovations specifically targeted sleep improvement. Some sleeping chambers featured sound dampening technologies with double walls filled with sand or cork to block street noise. Others incorporated resonating chambers that amplified soothing sounds like distant fountains while filtering out harsher noises. Window placements were calculated based on prevailing wind patterns to maximize cooling breezes during summer nights while minimizing drafts in winter. Perhaps most impressive were the Roman cooling systems designed for summer sleeping comfort. Some elite homes featured hidden water channels in walls adjacent to sleeping areas, creating natural cooling through evaporation. Others employed specialized window arrangements that forced incoming air across water features before entering sleeping chambers. Ancient air conditioning that required no power source. Even lighting technologies were sleep-focused. Special oil lamps designed for bedside use burned with particularly dim amber-tinted light that minimised blue wavelengths, remarkably similar to the night mode on modern devices. Some featured integrated timers using oil levels to automatically dim and extinguish as the sleeper transitioned to deeper rest. What these technologies reveal is something profound about Roman sleep wisdom. They understood that the best sleep technologies don't fight against nature, but work in harmony with it, enhancing rather than replacing our natural sleep capabilities.